today to do a revision for the English language AQA paper. We're going to be looking at the structure of the paper and how we're going to approach each of the questions individually. To do this session, you're going to need a specimen of the exam paper, and the one that we're going to use is a past paper that has been used called Jamaica In. Now, we will upload copies of this particular one, and it's been written by Daphne du Maurier. And what you'll need to do, get hold of the paper, make sure you've got it in front of you, and read the extract. Okay, so remembering that if we're looking at language paper 1, you only have the one extract. So that extract in your exam, you'll have 1 hour and 45 minutes. You need to split that time between your reading paper and your writing paper. What we recommend is that you take 1 hour to do the reading paper and 45 minutes to do the writing paper. With the reading paper, as soon as you've got the 1 hour, it's best to take the first 10 minutes to read the paper, to read the extract and the questions, to make sure you fully understand what it is that you need to do. Right, so what I'm going to do is share screen this paper. So if you bear with me, I'll put it on the screen now for you. Hold on. Right, so as you can see, this is the specimen paper. It tells you you have the 1 hour 45 minutes, and then this is the extract from Jamaica In. So if you would like to pause the video just so that you can read through the text. Okay, whilst we are going through, I'm going to be using this PowerPoint to help you go through each question by question. So we will make sure that this is uploaded for you also. So as I've said, we have 1 hour and 45 minutes with the exam, and the best thing to do is to split the time, 1 hour for the reading question and then 45 minutes for the writing. And if you look here, you can see that the extract to read your source A, you should take at least 10 minutes, and then you break up the rest of your time by looking at the amount of marks that are awarded to each particular question. So question 1 is 4 marks, so you need to take about 5 minutes. Question 2 is 8 marks, so you need about 8 minutes. Question 3 again is 8 marks, so you need another 8 to 10 minutes. And question 4 is 20 marks, so it's 20 minutes. So you please be aware, gentlemen, that if you spend too long on the first 3 questions, you are losing out time that you need to answer the main question of this reading paper, which is worth 20 marks. So it's really, really important that you stick to the timings and make sure that you have enough time to answer question 4 in full. Then you can see that your writing paper is 45 minutes. And what we recommend is that you spend the first 5 to 10 minutes planning, writing the piece of work for 30 minutes and using 5 minutes to proofread what you have done to check for any errors. Okay, now, hope that you've been able to read the text Jamaica In. So we're going to have a look at the first question. The first question, number 1, is the listing question. What the question is asking you to do is to find information. It's really, really important that you read the questions in the exam carefully. Look at what it's asking you to do. Look at what it's asking you to find. You need to locate the information Look at the right part of the text that the instructions are telling you, and then you list the information down. You can look and see if there is any implicit information that you may be able to find. But the key thing here is to follow the instructions carefully and methodically. So start at the top and work your way down through the lines that it's asked you to look at, and focus on what the question is asking you to do. Right, so if we look at the question, the very first question, it asks us to list 4 things from this part of the text about the weather in Cornwall. So it's really, really important that you are checking the information between the lines 1 to 7 that talks about what the weather is like in Cornwall. Right, so I've switched the screen back to the extract. Let me see if I can move this down. Okay. Right, so we are looking here, lines 1 to 7. Okay, so basically you're looking at the first paragraph. You need to use your highlighting pen. This will make it easier and simpler for you to find the information. Okay, so it was a cold, grey day. We know that the weather, nice, easy information. The air was clammy cold, okay? It was raining. And so you are just going through and finding the information and listing it down. Where you put that information now is here. So for the 4 marks, 1, 2, 3, 4, list 4 things that you can find in the extract that talks about the weather. So I hope that's nice and simple. That's question 1. Question 2. Trying to move this down. Right. Question 2 is your writer's use of language. In this exam, again, it helps you by giving you the extract that you need to focus on. So again, it tells you to look at lines 8 to 18, which is there in front of you. It asks you, how does the writer use language? And then you need to look at what it's asking you to describe, the effects of the weather. How did it make how did it make people feel? What happened with the weather? So again, it's got information here to help you. It talks about writer's choice of words and phrases, language features, techniques, and sentence forms. But all you really need to focus on is your PEAL format. So you're looking at your PEAL with your single word analysis, and then explaining, putting it all together and explaining how the writer has used words, phrases, punctuation, whatever language techniques you can find, how they've used those in order to create the effects of the weather. Okay, remember with this question, gentlemen, if you can identify the words and phrases, if you can identify if the writer has used an adjective or if they've used an adverb or verb or a simile, whatever the language technique is, that will help you to gain more marks in the exams. But keep into your PEA single word analysis and link it back to your question, ensuring that you are focusing on the effects of the weather. Your highlighting pen here is very, very important. When you're reading the extract, you are trying to look for at least 3 to 4 key quotations that shows the effects of the weather. So I'm going to ask you to pause the video now and find and highlight 3 or 4 quotations which show what the effects of the weather were. Lovely. Once you've highlighted your quotations, the next thing I'm looking for you to do is to annotate those same quotations. There's a reason why you chose those particular words. What is it telling you? What is it saying to you about what the weather was like? I need you to annotate the same, annotate each of your quotations there now. So if you do that, pause the video and do that now. Annotate, what are the quotations telling you? Lovely. Now that's completed, the next thing I'm going to ask you to do is take a pen and you are going to pick one word from the quotation that you have just annotated. Now, which word really stands out? Which is the most important word there that you think really shows you why you picked the whole quotation in the first place? So I want you to underline that word, and I want you to try and identify what the word class is. Have you identified an adjective? Have you identified a verb? Have you identified a simile or a metaphor? What have you identified in the quotation that you have chosen? Now, there, even if it's just a particular word, you can always identify that. So I'm going to ask you to stop the video now and see if you can identify that particular word. Right, now you have highlighted, you've annotated, and you have identified your single word analysis. It's now time for you to write up your response. So I'm going to give you 8 minutes now. So you need to time yourself, that you want to write at least 2, if you can, 3 PEA, and then explain that single word analysis, and then link it back to the main point of what the effects of the weather was. So I'm going to give you 8 minutes now. So if you pause the video and write that up now, that would be wonderful. Lovely. The third question now is our structure question. With this question, again, 8 marks, and you will only have about 10 minutes to write about it. So we need to simplify this as much as possible. So you need to think about the whole source, the whole text, the whole piece of writing that you've read, and you need to think about how the writer has structured it to interest you as a reader. Now, you might say, it's not very interesting to me, but the way that the writer has put the weather in, where she's put the characters in, all of those have been placed there for a particular reason. So whatever the text that you've been given, these are the types of things that you need to look at. So I've given you a list here, okay? Things that you need to be keeping an eye on. How does the story start? Are there changes in the setting, or does it change from setting to character? Does it shift in time, or does it shift in a topic that they're talking about, or a place? Does it shift in person? How is it developed? Are there flashbacks or flash forwards? Is there foreshadowing? Does it talk about the internal thoughts of the character, or the external thoughts? Is there speech? Does it shift points of view? Is there repetitions there, or is there a circular structure that the end sort of starts, it ends the kind of the same way as it has in the beginning? So there's lots of different things for you to look out for. So the question is always going to remain the same. How does the writer structure the text to interest you as a reader? It is your job now to decide how the text is structured. You've got to make that decision, and you do that by reading the extract and deciding for yourself, how does it start? How is it established? How does the text move on from paragraph by paragraph to the conclusion of the text? So the next thing I want you to do now is to pause the video, and I want you to annotate the main text. Because if you look here at question 3, it hasn't given you an extract. You have to look at the whole thing. So look at the the whole text of source A, and then I want you to make notes at the side of each of the paragraphs, talking about the main thing that happens in each of the paragraphs. I'm going to ask you to do that now. So if you pause the video. Lovely. Right, now that you have annotated and you know what's happening in each of the paragraphs, what you're now going to do is to write up your response. Your response is going to be written in a PEA kind of format. So you're going to give your point, you're going to say the text is established, it starts in such and such a way, and then it moves on, or it develops, or it shifts to whatever the next topic is. So you are not required to analyze anything in detail, but what you do need to do is to use the key words or key structure words to show that you understand how the text is structured. So how is it established? How does it develop? Does it shift? Are you looking at the characters, or does it move on to the setting? Again, you've got to make these decisions, and then you give a suggestion, or you look at what you think it's telling you about the text. What does the author want us to understand? What does it suggest? Okay, so I'm going to ask you to write that up now. And so if you pause the video and then give yourself 5-6 minutes to actually write it up. So you're just looking for the main information that you're finding in the text. You don't have to write a PEAL paragraph. What you're looking for is what is contained within each of the paragraph and how it's set out. Okay. Lovely. Okay, now the last question in the reading section, question 4, is the evaluation question. Now this question, obviously for the 20 marks, it is more detailed. It is similar to your question 2, which was the writer's use of language. How did the writer use language? But with this one, you're going to add some information about the overall effect of something. So what you're looking at is you're going to evaluate what the writer has done. So the writer, the information that you're reading, it could be about an individual, it could be about a place, it could be about any particular topic, but you need to explain how the author attempts to present an impression of the subject so that you can evaluate it. You need to give evidence, and you need to explain, and you need to use evaluative language. You need to give single word analysis in order to give a more detailed explanation about what the writer has done. Right, so what I've done is I've brought us back to our main exam paper. So we've gone through, as we've shown you, questions 1, 2, 3, and now we're looking at question 4. Okay, so for this, again, you need to ensure that you read the instructions that the examiners have given you. So it says from line 19 to the end. So you've got to look at the information that they give you. It says a student, having read this section of the text, said the writer brings the very different characters to life for the reader. It is as if you're inside the coach with them. To what extent do you agree? In your response, you could write about your impressions of the characters, evaluate how the writer has created those impressions, how they've used language, but you also need to make sure that you support your opinions with references to the text. So again, giving your point, supporting it with evidence, giving an analysis, giving a single word analysis from your quotation, and linking it all back to linking it all back to the question about the impressions of the characters. Right, the key thing here again is to be using your highlighting pen to ensure that you are highlighting the key words in the question. Are you focusing on what the question is asking you to do? Once you've done that, you need to go back to the text. Draw a line from line 19 to make sure that you're only looking from line 19 to the end of the text. And then you are looking for key quotations that show you about how the characters are presented. So the student is saying that the writer brings different characters to life, like you're inside the coach with them. Do you agree with that? Do you think that the information given in the extract is vivid enough to say that you could imagine being in the coach? And if you were in the coach, what do you think the characters would be like? Now, you've got a few characters in this particular extract, but again, I'm not going to give you my opinions. You need to look at yours. What do you think about the characters that are within that coach? If you were sitting in the coach with them, how would you view them? So I want you to go and pause the video now, go back to line 19 and think about what I have just said, looking at the individual characters. You are going to take your highlighting pen. You are going to find at least 4 quotations with regards to different characters, not the same characters, different characters. And you're going to highlight them. You need to be thinking or looking at quotations of at least 5 words, but no more than, say, 7, 8, nothing too long. So you need to highlight at least 4 quotations from line 19 onwards, and then we're going to have a look at how we can then annotate those quotations. So if you pause the video now and find your 4 quotations. Thank you. Right, now you found your 4 quotations, you now need to think, well, why did you choose those particular quotations? What is it telling you about the characters? I want you to annotate in the text why you chose those 4 particular quotations. Once you've done that, you're then going to take your pen, you're going to choose that single word that is showing you about this character, and then you're going to identify what the word class is. So is it an adjective, or is it a noun, is it a verb, etc.? Or is it a language feature that you found within the quotation? Have you seen a simile, or have you seen an onomatopoeia, or have you seen repetition? Anything that you find within that quotation, you must find at least a word class or a language feature. Once you've done that, then we're going to move ahead and then think about how we're going to write our PEAL paragraphs. So if you pause the video now and then find your quotations, that would be lovely. Right, now you've planned your responses, your task now is to write them up using your PEAL format. But you've already got all of that in your annotations on your source, on the extract. So all you need to do now is to write up your 3 or 4 of those PEAL paragraphs, remembering to identify that single word that you have underlined and explain the impressions that the characters are giving to you. And then in those paragraphs, what you're also going to do is evaluate. You need to say how you feel the writer has created, have they been successful in creating those impressions of the characters. So right, gentlemen, so what I've done is I've changed it back to the PowerPoint. So these are some of the keywords that help you to show critical evaluation. You do your PEAL paragraphs, but you include these types of words to show that you are critically evaluating the language, the words that the writer has used. You can say that the writer has effectively shown that this person is miserable in the text, or the writer has skillfully used this adjective, or the writer has convincingly shown the people who were unhappy in the carriage. So I'm going to leave this up on the screen. So whilst you're writing, you can be incorporating these words, some of these words, in your Peel paragraphs. Okay, so you should have now about 10 to 15 minutes to write up your paragraphs, because you've already done the planning on your sheet. So if you pause the video now and give yourself 10 to 15 minutes to complete that. Lovely. Lovely. I hope that you found it easier knowing that you've annotated the text in each of the questions that we have covered today. So we are going to have a look now at some example responses, especially for questions 2, 3, and 4. Right, now that you've finished writing, what we're going to do is to go over the questions that we've had a look at today. So the first one, question 1, listing 4 things. So looking at going to put you on the screen share. Hold on. Why does it say it's paused? Okay, so I'm going to show you a range of answers that you could have used for your question 1. So you could have said it was a cold day, as we said, that the weather had changed overnight, that there was a wind, it was misty on the hills, the air was clammy, the air was cold, it was raining. So types of things that the examiners will be looking for based on the information in lines 1 to 7. Okay, now we're going to have a look at question 2. So check your answers and tick where you've got them right, and have a look at why, if you didn't get any of them right, why not, so that you know for next time. Okay. Right, now we're looking at the answer for question 2. Again, we needed to look at the weather here. We were looking at how the writer uses language. So we needed to be able to use our PEAL format. So the more information you can give, the better. So if you'd given just basic information about the weather, that the wind came so that it shook the coach, then you're looking at, if you look at the mark scheme here, simple things that you take from the text, so that, you know, the wind blows, which shook the coach, is easy to find. Now we're looking for more than simple, which was why I said to you to highlight at least 3 different quotations so that you could talk about it in a little bit more detail. So if you look at the level 2, the level 2 answer gives you more information. The wind came and it blew, but it also shook the coach, making the passengers feel frightened. Or if you look here, the answer is including embedded quotes. So it's not just a case of copying a chunk of words from the text, but using the individual words and phrases that the writer has used to explain what is going on. For a level 3, you actually identifying specific words. So if you've actually identified specific words or language devices, then you are helping yourself to get into a higher level. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to pause, and then can you check over what you have done, and then we'll move on to question 3. Lovely. Question 3 now is our structure question. And again, you needed to look at the whole of the source, and you needed to check what was happening in the text. and where the changes lay. So if we look at some example answers here, for a level 1, you're just writing simple oh dear, sorry, let me just move that back. Right, simple information, the text was written in paragraphs. I mean, yes, we know, but we want more information than that. Level 2, that the writer writes about the weather in the first paragraph, then moves on to focus on some individuals. So again, you've given here, it's showing easy, simple information where it moves from one focus to another. But hopefully you'll have a little bit more detail than that. So for level 3, it talks about the main structure of the story, which begins with the weather, and the focus moves from the outside with the rain and the gusts to the driver and the horses, then to the inside of the coach and the individual characters. So you can see that you can you can see that the more information that you give with regards to the changes within the text, the better off it is. But what I also want you to look at doing is seeing where you've used some of those keywords. Have you used words such as shift, such as focus, all those types of words? Have a look at your paragraph, okay? And then once you've done that, then we'll have a look at question 4. Lovely, thank you. Right, lastly, we're going to have a look at question 4 and see how you have responded in that on that particular question. So again, hopefully you would have structured your answer using the PEAL format, but use some of these keywords to show critical evaluation. So what I'm going to do is to also put the mark scheme up again so that you can have a look. Screen sharing. Right, so this is the mark scheme for the last question. So hopefully you would have been using some of those keywords to talk about how the writer created the impressions of the characters, and you use those words to evaluate how well the writer brought the different characters to life for the reader. So if we look at the mark scheme and the content descriptors, okay, for simple answers, level 1, you would talk about the characters and how they are good because you can see what they're like. Not very much detail there, but with you having highlighted the quotations and already talking about the impressions that you got from the characters, you should be moving towards more a level 2, if not a level 3, where the more detail that you have, the better, which will give you more marks, and also explaining what the writer has done by using those language devices or the word classes. So knowing that he can, the writer has used violent verbs or violent words to explain what is happening with the characters in the text. So what I want you to do is just have a look now and then see if you have used those evaluative words, highlight those evaluative words in your writing to see whether or not you are clearly explaining the effect of the writer's choices. So not just telling me what the writer has done, but by using words like the writer has cleverly shown the anger of the passenger, or the writer has effectively shown. Okay, so I hope that makes it clear for the first 4 questions, and then we're going to move on and do question 5. Okay, so if you pause the video and check your work, that would be wonderful. Lovely. I hope that is clear with regards to the reading paper, we're going to have a look at question 5, the writing paper, which is worth 45 marks, and you should be allowing 45 minutes to write it. Now, 45 marks, what am I talking about? 40 marks, sorry, gentlemen. So the 40 marks is split into 2 sections. The first section is for content. That's the ideas that you have within your writing. And then the second part of that is the organization, how you put each of your ideas into separate paragraphs. That's 24 marks. Then you have 16 marks for technical accuracy. Your technical accuracy is how well you do your spelling, punctuation, and your grammar. Your sentences should sound correct, and they should sound very formal. So 24 plus a 16, that's your full 40 marks for the writing paper. Okay, so what you'll find with the language paper 1 is that usually the writing, the story that you need to write, the descriptive or the narrative story, has some relation to the reading. So just as we had this extract from Jamaica Inn, it was the people in the carriage in the really terrible weather. When we look at the question for the writing, what we find, it is about weather. So you've got a choice of writing a description suggested by the picture. As you can see, again, it's a stormy weather, or, oh dear, sorry, gentlemen, let me bring that back. Or you can write a narrative story, and if you look, it says just the opening part, so not the whole story, just the introduction, about a place that is severely affected by the weather. So hopefully from your reading, you probably would have got ideas swirling around your head about what you could write about with regards to the weather, because you've just had to read a text that talks about bad weather and how upset people were regarding it. So how do we go about writing a description or a narrative? Well, first of all, you have to choose which one you want to do. So if it's a description, then we know what that suggests, that you need to describe. You need to be able to say what something looks like. You need to be able to use the senses to say, you know, what the area, looking at the picture, what it would feel like to be in that situation, what it would look like, what you would hear, what you would feel, all those kind of things. So you're really focusing on the 5 senses. But if you decide that you're going to write the story, then there's a slightly different structure to that. You're going to have to create a backstory to what is happening. But what I'm going to do now, I'm going to give you some tools that will help you to do either one of those stories, because you still need all these elements in your writing. And then once we've done the basics, then we can move on to how you would structure a narrative piece of story. So what I'm going to do is to share with you my different PowerPoint. Okay. And I call it my 16 steps to success. So I'll go through this quickly, and you may take notes, or I will try to upload this onto the Show My Homework if you find it helpful, and then you'll be able to keep that. So my 16 steps to success. First of all, it's helpful to create a setting. So you know that you need to create a setting, not of a supermarket, but of a setting somewhere where the weather is going to be bad. So that's number 1, create a setting. Number 2, invent people, make them up. You create them. You know lots of people, you can describe people that you know, or you can just make up what the people look like, what they sound like. You should use names to give things more a more real feel. So give names to people, places, the towns. So make up the names. Then create what the weather is going to be like. You've been told that the weather is going to be it's a bad situation. You've got the sea that is crashing into the train, or you're going to have, you know, that it may be storm and gales, so you need to decide, you know, what the rain's going to feel like and things like that. Okay, that's number 4, create the setting. Then number 5, when you talk about your characters, that the characters are not staying where they are, they're probably running for their lives. So explain the movement, how they're running. So use adverbs to show movement. Then again, use your senses. Think about what you can see, or what the characters would see, what they would hear, what they could taste, how they would feel, what they would smell, these types of things. Then use colors. So include color. So depending on the time of day, think about the dreary, dull grey. Those of you that are in art, use your developed vocabulary from your art classes to explain what things look like. It may be that you're describing the colours of the people, the clothes that they're wearing, their hair, their eyes, whatever it is. So include colours, and that will help give more detail to your writing. Number 8, think about how you can incorporate language devices, a simile, a metaphor, onomatopoeia into your writing, but purposely try to find places that you can put some type of language device whilst you're writing. So talking about how the person was scared as a frightened mouse, or whatever it is that you want to come up with. Number 9, vary in your sentences. Now this definitely comes down to using a range of your punctuation, being able to use all the different types of punctuation that you know. So I think on the next screen, yeah, you see not just a basic full stop and commas, but using rhetorical questions, using exclamation mark, using semicolon for using compound sentences. But if you do that, then that will help you with your sentence structure. Zoom in on a particular person, really give some detail about one of your characters, and try to use adventurous vocabulary, okay? Use a small amount of dialogue. It's not a script, so you just want to show the examiners that you know how to use speech marks. So 1 or 2 comments is fine. You don't have to use lots. And make sure that you are using paragraphs. In each of your ideas, when you're describing different people, you are looking at different paragraphs. If you've moved on to the setting, you're putting it into a new paragraph. If a new event has happened, you're putting it into a new paragraph. So each idea into a separate paragraph, and then focus on your spelling. Sound out the words. It doesn't have to be perfect, okay? But even if you're using adventurous vocabulary, try to sound it out, and you will the examiners will see that you're making the effort to try and use more formal language. So not using contractions, so it's not don't, wouldn't, couldn't, but you're writing the full words out: do not, could not, would not. Okay. And then lastly, using the 3rd person narrative. Always use 3rd person unless the question asks you, how do you? Okay, so the first thing that you now need to do is to think about how you're going to plan your answers. Right, so the next thing, once you've focused on which question you're going to answer, whether it be the descriptive or the narrative, your next important task is to write a plan. A lot of the time in the exam paper, you will see that after the question, there's a few lines before you move on to the next page. Okay, what I suggest is that you use this area here to write your plan. So think about the kind of things that you want to say. Think about the characters that you want to create, the setting that you want to create, the events that you want to create. And if you've got any words that you think, or phrases that you think that might really look or sound good in your writing, write it down here. So write your ideas down so that when you start to write, you are not running out of ideas when you move on to the main body of your text. So what I'm also going to show you is what the examiners are actually looking for with regards to your writing. So I've said to you before at the beginning that the first 24 marks is for your content and for your organization. So I'm just going to show you the writing, the mark scheme. Okay, so write a description suggested by the picture or the opening part of a story about a place that is severely affected by the weather. What the examiner is looking for good ideas from you, okay? So this is one of the reasons why the planning is so important. If you have only 1 or 2 ideas, you're not moving very much far from level 1. So you need to sustain the information. Your writing needs to be clear, so good sentences and engaging. So you need to think about using the 5 senses, using clear sentences and communicate consistently and clearly. Okay, so that's for the content. The organization must have clear paragraphs. Okay, so it's really, really important. You could write the best piece of writing and use no paragraphs, and then you are not going to get yourself out of a level 1 or a level 2. So it's really, really important that you use paragraphs. So each of your ideas, okay, goes in a separate paragraph in your story. And then the last thing that you are then marked on is technical accuracy. So as I said before, that's you using a range of punctuation, not just full stops and commas. So, and if you look at what the mark scheme says, it says mostly with success. So those of you who think that you have to be perfect at it at all times, please read what the mark scheme says. Okay, that you're using a range, so that's of the 11 bits of punctuation that we know, so full stops, commas, question marks, exclamation marks, ellipsis, colon, semicolon, brackets, dash and apostrophe. You are using a range of those. So out of the 11 that you're using, at least 7, 8, mostly with success. So you're trying to use them and in the right order. So I'm going to ask you to pause the video now, see if you can try and do the planning. Okay, and then you need to give yourself 30 minutes to write up the story, and then I want you to come back here and have a look at the mark scheme and see where you would place yourself. I hope this has been useful for you, gentlemen. We'll have a range of resources available to you. This Jamaica In AQA language paper, and some supporting PowerPoints to help you go through question by question. Any questions, please come to me or any other of the English staff, and we'll be most happy to help you. Okay, God bless, take care, bye-bye.